y'all doing? I am Levi Johnny Griffin, host of Word Today, and this is my amazing co-host and beautiful wife,
Portia Griffin.
And we are honored to be here with the Hall of Fame inductee, my former professor who taught me the ropes when I was at University of Incarnate Word. Shout out to all the Cardinals out there.
Amen.
The amazing pastor, senior pastor of True Vine Church, Dr. Trevor Alexander.
Amen. Well, nice to see you all. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Still praying for you.
Thank you. I
Most anointed woman on the planted.
The planted.
Plant, because she's
The Lord
planted.
planted.
That's a good cover up.
Planted in the word.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's it. So we always give everyone a chance to just, at the end, we'll give you a chance to kind of give all your social media information, how they can, your service time, so they can get to contact information, so they can get to your church.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, we want to just hear about your bio. And I know you personally, so I can say, I can speak to you a little bit better than, I know all of us in your past, but I really know you for, my goodness, 5 years now? Easy 5 years. So give us your bio. Tell us about how you got inducted in the Hall of Fame. Tell us about your walk with Christ. Tell us about all of that good stuff and make us feel light and fluffy. Then we're going to get into some let's build a wall around Mexico stuff.
Let's see. Both my parents are from the island of St. Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was born British West Indian.
Okay.
Yes. And so at the age of 16, ended up in New York City. I hung around New York City for a while, then went in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those, interestingly enough, I consider myself to be a CME Christian back then. Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter.
Summer Christian. Summertime, I'm a Christian.
Yeah. But I knew I went to church on those 3 days. And Molly, he talking about why Mother's Day? Because when I call home to wish Mama a happy Mother's Day, boy, do you go to church? Yes, Mom. I didn't tell her I got there late or after lunch or whatever. But I went. And so when I lived with my grandparents who raised me at my early age, I was in church every Sunday. But when I got away from home and decided to be a grown man, I stepped away from church. So church was always in me, but I wasn't going on a regular. And then I did whatever most young men try to do, go to the clubs and try to find whatever you think is out there. Oh, then I met my wife, and y'all know the funny story behind that. But my wife was in church, right? And so I remember the only woman who ever broke up with me was my wife. I've never had a breakup in my life. And she said, I love God more than I love you. And if you can't walk the same journey. And so I'm like, okay, well, fine. Forget you. Go. Pride set in.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to sleep that night. I'm intended to die. It's over. And God said to me, now, it's funny, even though I wasn't in church, I do know the voice of God. And God said, you're going to let the best thing that happened to you walk out your life. And so early the next morning, man, about 8 o'clock the next morning, I went over to where she was staying, beat that door down until she answered the door. And I said, okay, I'm gonna try to change. I can't guarantee anything, but I'm gonna try. If you love God, I'm gonna try to love God too. And that started me on this journey. So I would tell folks, I came to Christ by love of a woman. But once I got into to church, it was interesting because our dates was Bible studies. We used to have personal Bible studies. This is a guy who was running to the club every single day. And now we're spending time in the Word, breaking out. And whenever we got stuck, we call the pastor, say, hey, what does the scripture mean? But that's how we really developed this relationship with one another on Bible study. Yeah. And so that's really how I started down there. And then one day the Lord slapped me and said, well, come on over here. Come be a good, well, he called me to be a preacher. But I'm like, I ain't no preacher, Lord. I'll be a deacon. So, God has to be patient with me because I've always tried to do things my way. So I became a deacon and ended up moving up to head deacon. When I became head deacon, I said, this is not where I called you to. but God, I'm serving the church. You know, I'm doing. He said, no. And so I was only head deacon for about 3 or 4 months, and so the pastor said, no, I knew this is not where you're supposed to be, but you want to move, stubborn man. So eventually I went into the ministry training track and so forth. But my road to where I am now was full of twists and turns of releasing my will and getting to God's will. But I'm at the age now, I realize, why do you fight when you can't win? Why are you fighting God? You're not going to win. Yeah. And you may look like you're going to win, and you may feel like you're winning, but you're not. Mm-hmm. But at a younger age, I didn't know that. I know that now. So that's kind of got me where I am in ministry. And my road to being inducted into the Hall of Fame, it speaks to my works of in the community, active in the community, international, we're building wells. Right now, we're looking at working with formerly incarcerated people who's transitioning back into society, how to make that transition smoother. Sometimes coming out, they've been in for so long, something as a cell phone is foreign to them. Mm-hmm. And then one of the biggest things we're finding out now is how do we blend them back into the family? Not just society, but the family. Mm-hmm. When you've been gone, and you've been military, even though you're that other branch, but
the best branch.
Okay, praise the
United States Navy.
But sometimes when you're deployed and you have to come back home, you're not coming back the same person. The home has been ran by whoever, and they got rules may have changed. You got to learn how to reintegrate it, and this is what we try to work with other ministries as well. But trying to help them to be more effective in transitioning back. Hopefully, prayerfully, they won't go back in.
Man, that is I'd love to hear more about that. Do you guys accept volunteers?
Yeah.
So if they wanted to volunteer, because I did prison ministry in Virginia, and it was powerful because normally they would have a different preacher or whatever come in or speaker come in. I owned a business. I don't remember if I had already started ministry classes or I had finished and started doing ministry at the time. But so they brought me in and I spoke on the practical needs and spoke to the prisoners. And they said they never bring anybody back twice to try to get fresh face. They asked me to come back again. And so I wrote a track for the guys who were, that they allowed me to pass out, printed out tons of them on getting business cards and how to start business. A lot of them had ideas about doing like lawn care or restaurants or whatever.
That's exactly one of the things we're looking at.
Yeah. So I did this outline on how to get free business cards from like Vistaprint at the time and all of this other stuff that was practical that they were needing. That gave it out to them. And they say, never tell anybody like, hold on, I told them my whole name. Never give anybody your phone number. I said, hey, y'all, take this number down. I gave them myself. And they're like, you don't want these guys to be. I was like, no, I want them to be. So, and that's what would happen. They would come out and they contact me. One guy I gave a job. He was paying for me in the studio. Other guys. So I was like, no, I want them to come out. Like, I'm not just saying, hey, this is, give them information. Good luck, fellas. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. You know, I'm like, no. You
have to invest in it and work with them. Yeah. And so we do on Mondays, we go to the Summit House, which is a halfway home for women who's been incarcerated. So the women go there twice a month and minister. And really, Dr. Doshi Piper, who is a criminologist at UIW, is one of our ministers. She heads up the program. And so she's got contacts with the various people in the community and the city. So jobs is definitely one of them, but housing is another. You know, once you have a criminal record, some people don't want to give you no rent, let you rent or lease. And so these are some of the challenges that these young people, many of them are young, that's coming back out, that's trying to get back in. You know, we've all made mistakes. We may not be locked up, but they got locked up for X number of years. And how do they reintegrate back in and feel their dignity intact? Sometimes it's not. So, you know, San Antonio right now had a thing to call Band the Box, because sometimes when you fill a job application, they ask that question, have you been, and do you have a felony? If you check that box, once you check the box, pretty much know you're not going to get a job. Yeah. So, at least for the government jobs, they check something called Band the Box. We don't have, that box is not on there. Gives you at least, now it's going to come out in your background check, but at least when you walk away from that place, your dignity is intact. Mm-hmm. But when I turn in the application, they look down and see a felony. And they look at you, you walk away knowing that's not my job. Yep.
Yeah. So if someone wanted to volunteer and be a part of that, like I'm personally interested in it. Mm-hmm. I've always loved prison ministry. I've always loved any ministry where I feel like you walk away and you've accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done like homeless stuff, and we, you know, I feel that's where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love preaching in churches and stuff like that. But even when we go to preach, or when I go to preach, I don't preach on normal stuff. Like I did communion, and it was on how
gifts to Jesus.
Well, but it was when Jesus was on the cross, and they offered him gall, and he didn't take it. And gall is also known as myrrh, and myrrh is a poison, like a painkiller, like morphine.
Yes, sir.
So it's like when God wants you to respect the bread and the wine, or the body being broken in the blood, realize he had just gotten beaten, scourged, guts hanging out, and they're about to now, after all of that, people were dying of scourging. He survived the scourging, dying with blood dripping, and now they're about to nail him to the cross on top of that. And you think the very first thing you'd go for is hand me the Tylenol, hand me the morphine, hand me whatever to make this go away. But he didn't want the drugs in his blood, knowing that 2,000 years later, somebody would be calling from a bedroom or a hospital bed, needing the purification, the edification, and the power contained in the blood. So I always like to just talk about stuff that we don't normally hear, and things that open the light. So I like where the rubber meets the road. I don't like average church every day. I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I love hooping, but the amount of times I've screamed to hoop.
Yeah, I'm not a hooper. I used to be young years until once, I preached.
And nothing against hoopers.
No. I preached a dynamic message in my eyes, and one of the deacons came out. Oh man, that was dynamic. I said, Dick, what did you get out of it? Wait a minute. I just got finished preaching. You can't tell me anything. That's when I became more of the quote unquote teacher style.
Yeah.
Because my goal is when you walk away, if you can walk away with one solid point, then you've done something. If you got a him and a ham, and I just got finished, it's something I didn't do. I'm not blaming him. It's me. I didn't do something right.
Yeah.
If they didn't walk away with something. You talking about one of my favorite things about the whole leading up to communion. When Jesus has his disciples there, and he says, one of you is going to betray me.
Yeah.
I love the disciples, and they said, Lord, is it I? And I think that's the question we always got to ask ourselves. Where have we betrayed you? Because they knew it wasn't them. One person knew it was him. But the rest of them down there, Lord, is I? Now, Peter, why you asking if it's you? You know it ain't you, Peter. John, you're the beloved disciple. You know it's not you. But the question that's there, that they're asking, is it I? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves every time we come to the Lord's table. Where have we betrayed you?
You're opening up a whole box. We weren't even going in this box, but you just opened up the box.
Yeah.
So, oh man, that's so good, because I think, and hopefully this is healed to somebody, but I think, man, that's just a perfect simile between them over 2,000 years ago, the one that literally walked with Jesus, and us now. I can't tell you how many times I've heard a sermon, or I don't know if this ever happened to you. I've been in the middle of preaching, and what I'm preaching about convicts me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like the person that you think is the holiest in the church is the pastor, and you know, or the preacher or the minister who's ever given the word, and you come down going, man, you know, Lord, is it I? You know, so they're walking with Jesus, and they're like, we literally walk with Jesus. I've walked on water, you know, as Peter, and he's like, did I miss the mark? Is it,
think about this though. How many times that you, this wife, y'all wonderful, but sometimes, you know, on a Sunday morning, my wife just said something that's like, I'm mad, right? I gotta go preach. How can I effectively preach? But the one who I swore to give my life to, I'm mad at right now. So we got to make sure that whenever we come in, we got to get it right. Yeah. And this is nothing but, I remember in March 31st, 1989, you know why this day still sticks in my head. One of our Church of God in Christ, and we were doing our watch night service, and the pastor had one of the women to speak, and she gets up and speaks a dynamic word, sits down there, has a heart attack, and died. She died right there in the church. She didn't see the new year. March 31st, 1989. And the one that was affected the most, other than the church, was her daughter. a 14-year-old daughter. They had an argument on the way to church that night.
Mm-mm-mm.
The mother dies, and she doesn't get the chance to say, "Mom, forgive me." The mom dies after delivering the word in church. And that always sticks with me. And so if I'm going in and my wife and I ain't speaking on the way down, before we go into the church, we're going to get it right.
Mhm.
Because how have we betrayed you? The Lord is I. We betrayed by not talking to one another, by not being the best version of Christ to one another. And then we want to take communion like, oh, hey, look at me. No, we got to make sure we're right with one another.
Yeah, I'm a big stickler on. I take that. Don't go to bed with a mad. I take
don't let the
that
sun
so
go down on your
serious.
wrath.
'Cause
Yes.
I'm like, look, if I'm mad at you, we better talk this out,
Yes.
okay? Until we think, like,
4
until we
o'clock in the
good.
morning. Yes.
Because I'm like, I can't sleep because my mind is just, I'm convicted. I'm just convicted. You mad? Why you sleep? I'm like, I can't sleep, so we're gonna talk about this.
You don't want to go to bed mad.
Yeah. She's,
Where you going?
we're mad. She's texting me, hey.
But it's good.
And
though.
because I'm on this like, let me go drive and clear my mind. And she's like, where you at? You supposed to be leaving. You got to come and talk about this thing. So I love that. I love that about her. She definitely keeps the balance in our relationship. But one of the reasons I was talking about the Is It I, and even the most holiest of the Pope himself would probably have that same moment, right? Like, Is It I is because if you've ever been saved and have doubted your salvation, everyone does it. It's kind of like when you hear the sinner's prayer and you have the guy drunk in the back of the church saying it and like the deacon saying it around the front row. We all want to make sure we good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just say that if you've ever just, been like, man, I don't know if I'm on the mark, you think you are. And that does, I think that's healthy because it keeps us from being, I think when that goes away, and you're just like, oh, I've arrived. I think that's when you may be drifting away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's, I would tell people, man, whenever you see a question in the scripture, don't read past it so lightly. Because some of those questions are intentional to cause us to question our own selves.
Yeah.
Those questions are our questions.
Yeah, I tell the kids, you have to die daily. Like, I want to die daily to self. I don't want to wake up and be like, okay, I did good yesterday. I want to die daily. Lord, I'm laying it down. I'm humbling myself. Help me today to have a good day. I'm repenting. Let's have a brand new day. I don't want to think I can do it all because I can't.
So I don't know if we should go to a commercial break or just kind of dive right in.
Can I call a commercial break if it gets too deep? Cut!
Okay. We'll be back in 5. So we're going to go to a commercial. We'll be back, or just go to a break and we'll be back. And I want to talk to you about some of the stuff in the news. I like to listen to NPR in the morning. Sometimes I get convicted because it's like, first thing you need to be listening to is the Bible because I have the audio Bible and not necessarily NPR, but I do something. I'm 50-50 with it. Sometimes
I
it's
play
Matthew.
it while you sleep, so you kind of
that's true. I wake up to Joseph Prince every morning normally, or Stephen
Prince or Joyce Myers.
There's been a lot of Joseph Prince and Stephen Furtick lately.
Yeah.
So I wake up to that. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I heard it for the 15 seconds. I woke up. Let me put NPR.
While you're sleeping, he's listening. He just don't
Yeah. And but I want to talk about. I don't know if we're going to get into Mueller and Barr, but I want to talk about the religious take on the wall. And I want to talk about the drug industry because I come out of it. I worked in research for a institute that did research for every big name you can imagine in drug development. And there's a pill, I think they call it PrEP, that prevents HIV. And I heard a staggering statistic, 50% of Black gay males have HIV or will have HIV. 50%. And this is just on NPR this morning. So when if you're watching this, when we taped this, it was 50% of gay Black males have HIV or will have. That's like 50. Feel like you might, but I mean that's not good. That's so. And they talked about the drug. The interview was very, very. He was kind of grilling the guy that was part of representing the distribution of these drugs. He didn't work for the drug company. I think he either worked for the government or in marketing, but not for the drug company. And they were asking, hey, I think it was the government, because they were asking, are you guys going to try to go after and break the patent to get this drug out to everyone? Because there's a pill that you can take that will prevent you from getting HIV.
Yeah, I heard, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, I read something about that.
Yeah.
The cure for AIDS.
Well, it's not a cure,
it's not a cure, but that's what I would call
it'll keep you from getting it. So, and it's $1,000 a day, and you take the pill every day. And they talked about getting it. Yeah. Can you imagine $30,000 a day, $365,000 a year? And if you live 10 years, you got 3.6 million. So, but and that was the guy's point. Should you go after the drug companies to lower price? And the guy was like, no, you can't break a patent. So anyway, I want to just get into some of this stuff and, the religious view or God's view, or how should we approach this stuff as Christians? So let's unpack all of that when we get back. And we're back where we're today. I am Levi Johnny Griffin.
Portia Griffin.
And we're here debating off camera about the amazing Apple and an Android. And I want to make this.
Wow.
I want to make this point. When God made the garden, there was apples in the garden. There was no Androids in the garden. I'm just saying. I know this almost for a fact that there was probably bananas in the garden. There was probably peaches and plums. There was some apples. I don't remember seeing an Android in the garden.
But you know what you also find in the garden?
No.
Rotten apples. Just saying.
Yep.
Rotten
And
apples.
If I remember correctly, y'all apple got a bite in it, like when Eve bit it, because she was disobedient, and she brought sin.
Well, what happened was it just said
Forbidden fruit.
Forbidden fruit. It never says an apple.
It was an apple.
And it doesn't say it's been
been.
portrayed by Android lovers as an apple.
Forbidden.
It's fake news. All right.
What a segue. That's a great segue. Fake news.
Speaking of fake news, let's talk about the wall.
Yeah.
Good, man.
So, a budget, I think, out of the trillion, 3.6 trillion or whatever the number was, 868 million or whatever was supposed to be allocated to the wall, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I'm sure they'll put it in the comments. But I think that was the last estimate as of yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There is so many political points, right? The political point being, we don't want additional violence into the country. We want people to come in, but legally. We don't want these coyotes, these smugglers, doing sex trafficking, sex slave, human trafficking, which they are doing by the boatloads. I mean, they're finding canisters. I had a guy come in to the office, and while we were talking, he's like, "Oh, look at these video," and he was showing me picture after, because he worked as a game warden, but he worked with a specialized team. He would go support him that did just drug busts of people coming over from Mexico. And cocaine that would fill this entire room. Not, metaphorically, literally fill this entire room. They found people. They found, so we get it from a policy standpoint. This is bad. And it's not just keeping, sometimes the media want to portray like the little old lady with her grandkid. Like, no, that's not who they're trying to stop, right? They're trying to stop the bad hombres. So with that, you are catching some of the bad hombres, but in throwing out the net, you're also catching some of the good hombres, right? So from a non-political standpoint, a strictly humanitarian, a strictly religious standpoint, and I've kind of have my views and I'll share them, but I give you the floor first. What is your view on this as far as humanitarian, religious, coming from the standpoint of the church? What would be your take?
The wall is designed to keep people out and keep people in. But the way the walls are going to be built and where the current structures are, but what you just described a minute ago, are vehicles coming through ports of entry. They're not coming in these where the walls are, because many of them don't have roads. So when they're coming through ports of entries, we need to beef up the technology to detect these type of things. Are people coming through with the woods and through the, yes. But where many of them, the traffickers are coming in, they're coming through vehicles and other ports of entry. The normal ports of entry, right? And by the way, we focus on the northern border. They're coming through the southern border. And I mean, it's going to be the southern border, but they're coming through the northern border. And we somehow look at Mexico and the Latino countries as that's where all the bad hombres are. There's many ways you could come. You could come through an airport. There's ways you could come in. So we need to detect better technology to detect fake passports, all of those things. Now, for me, as a man that has read scripture and understanding the journey of the Israelites, we are to be kind to strangers at our doors. Some of these people are coming in with leaving some jacked up situations. They are literally fleeing with the clothes on their backs for their lives. In certain parts of Colombia and other places where the drug lords are, they're corrupting and corralling and kidnapping their children to put them into these markets. And so they're trying to protect their families and leaving. And when we get here, there is a political asylum process that they have to go through. Go through the process. Let's do it the way that we're supposed to do and treat them with respect. Separating children and their mothers is got to be rough. Mm-hmm. We just sent, I had, what was that? In January, we had a attorney who does, immigration law from California. She came down here and mobilized folks in San Antonio to go to McAllen, to where they're housing some of these people. Now, we couldn't go into the system, but we had a little rally out there and prayed and everything else. But we took down blankets, but they wouldn't take them. Obviously, there's all types of policies that governs that. But I think there is a humane way to treat people, to separate children from their mothers. One of my biggest concerns are when you separate a 10-year-old from their mother, and you have not, and I heard this today, and I just fresh, I have not been able to collaborate the source. It may be about 2 years before you can find out where the parents are, and these people may be orphans. You separated them from their mother. They're 10 years old today. They'll be 10 years from now. What have we developed in them? Have we now developed such a hatred for the United States that they become an enemy? And then we are now a target for them. So I think we have to do this in a humane way. Having one who have been through the immigration system, legally, the immigration system, it is expensive. It's thousands of dollars and paperwork after paperwork. Thank God my parents had the money, but some people don't have the money. If you're fleeing for your life with just you and your family, and let's not even talk about the journey from point A to point B, the treacherous things they got to go through. Sometimes women traveling with their children get raped along the way. And so how can we do this? Do I have the answers? No. I don't have all the immigration answers. But I think that we can house them better. If we're going to build prisons, and we're building thousands, millions of dollars of prisons, can we build better facilities that when they come, that we can help them, maybe teach them English while they're there? Because you're going to speak, if you're going to come in here and be productive, you got to speak English. I'm all for speaking Spanish, but when you're trying to get a job, you're going to need. So maybe there's things we can do that while they're going through the process, we can help them, prepare them for legally coming into it. Until that point, can we put processes and facilities where you help them, put them a child in a cage? Man, my dogs, they don't even like to go in the little box when we travel. Can we treat kids and women and men too with a little bit more dignity to speak to the dignity that God, because if we all made an image of God, can we honor the dignity that you have without diminishing and dehumanizing somebody? I think there's ways we can do that.
I 100% agree. Speaking with the game warden, and I asked him about that. I was like, man, what's up with the cages and the stuff like that? And he says, we're getting so many people. We're being inundated with people fleeing the horrors of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the raping, the murder, the drug infested, the cartels that are just murdering people, leaving people hanging in roads. I mean, and it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And he says there's more people than, so we're just literally just finding any building that we can, like in a scramble, and people are there, and, you know, and they're getting these, whatever resources. Basically, we're overrun, and we can't handle the influx of people. And he also told me some stuff that was mind blowing about they would get overrun in some of these cities, and they would literally load the people on buses, the people that are just the illegal immigrants, give them bus tickets to come to like San Antonio or a different city.
And they got to make it when they get here.
And because they're just so overrun, it's kind of like prisons when they're overrun. You just start letting the prisoners out. Like, you're supposed to do 2 years. Right. We'll let y'all at 6 months just because we can't handle it. Right.
Would it be more beneficial for us if we can invest that type of billions of dollars to invest in a system that can handle these type of overflow? And maybe we can, we talk about cutting aid to some of these countries. Well, that's going to cause, I do know corruption exists everywhere, right? But can we build and invest in the infrastructure of some of these countries that we know these immigrants are coming from, where we can, many of them don't want to leave because they want to leave. They're trying to leave
for their
lives, or trying to get a better life to pay to support their family. If we can invest in the governments of these countries where they can build up the infrastructure of their own country, maybe we won't be dealing with this many influx of people, where they can actually fight the cartels. Mm. Those are the things I think we can spend that money on. We build elaborate prisons. I mean, some of these prisons are really, really nice. Can we take out the politics for a moment and look at how we can treat people a little bit more humanely? What is it really? I haven't heard that conversation yet. What is it that do we really need to do to improve this immigration system? And how can we house people? I just shudder to think that my girls could grow up in cages. I just shudder that. I don't want to see anybody's child in a cage. When I go to the zoo, you expect to see that, but I don't expect to see a human being in a cage. Mm. And I don't know what is the psychology of being caged as a human being. What is it for me as a God to go to work every morning to see human beings? Well, I don't know. I don't know if we've even done that study. PTSD is real. What is the long-term effect on the children? What is the long-term effect on the gods? I think we may have just created a healthcare nightmare that we're not even ready for. Maybe that the long-term effects going to cost us more money in the long term. Mm-hmm.
So, are you against prison systems? Should we not lock people up?
I'm for reforming, because again, I'm having worked with what we call our Nehemiah Project, and sometimes my youngest daughter is to become a lawyer. She graduates this May. People go to jail for infractions, right? But if you had a good lawyer, you can beat it. Think about that gentleman who got drunk, killed 4 people. He got to jail and he had affluenza. Mm. He has 10 years probation, right? He killed people. Somebody gets DWI, he's going to jail for 10 years. Killed nobody. The system needs to be reformed. Mm-hmm. And we know we done heard it talk about crack cocaine gets this type of punishment. Cocaine gets this type of punishment. The system needs reforming. Innocent people go to jail. We just had a gentleman called Anthony Grave at UIW. He spent 12 years on death row for a crime he did not commit. And now he's got exonerated, but 12 years on death row. All because he didn't have the lawyer to effectively argue. And the evidence they had was so whimsy. It's just, and eyewitness saw somebody that kind of looked like him. Kind of looked. And that's enough to put you away. And then the eyewitness says, years later, he was coerced to saying it was him. And this man spent 12 years not in prison, on death row. Those are the type of things we need to. If you do a crime, there's punishment. I believe there's punishment. But I think our prison system is overran by people of color because typically we don't have the funds to get a good lawyer. And got nothing against lawyers because my daughter's going to be one. The court-appointed lawyers, their workload is too much. And they don't have enough time to prepare. Mm. So a lot of times they plea bargain. You may be innocent, but they urge you to plea bargain because they don't have the time to effectively put together defense for you. So we need to reform our criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. It needs a big time. Again, everybody's innocent, right? But when you listen to some of these folks who have been proven innocent and look at the evidence they had that got locked up with, you're like, really? But this is what happens.
Let's talk missions. I always feel, and you made a point that I agree with, that was investing into other countries. It's kind of like if people are fleeing a sinking ship, let's not try to fix the people. How about we fix the ship?
Yes.
So if people are fleeing from these other nations, these sinking ships, maybe now I don't necessarily think it's one government's job to prop up another government, because you cripple your own government necessarily in the process.
Here's the thing that we just talked about the other day. When we take on the title of leaders of the free world, you hear it mentioned, I don't know how many times a day, on TV, whatever media you listen to, it mentioned, we are the leaders of the free world. That's a responsibility that goes with that title. So if we want to become a leader, are you willing to shoulder that responsibility? Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I don't think it's our task alone, but if we're going to put ourselves out there as the leader, then let's build a coalition. Let's build all these other developed countries, England, France, Germany, all of them. Let's talk about how we can make this better for all of us.
Now, as a pastor, you have people in the church and you may have had people come to you needing light bill money. Mm-hmm. And I think even as a pastor, as a church, you would agree that you might help them with 1 or 2 months, but you don't just take it as a church's job to pay their light bill forever. Yeah. So
and you got to teach them how to manage their money.
If they choose to. Some people don't choose to, and they won't. And you've met that, and you know that, and we both know that from running churches. Mm-hmm. Some people, their default position is, I need.
Yes.
And some people are like, no, I'm independent, and they hate to ask. Those are the people I love to help, the ones that don't want to ask. They're like, I'm embarrassed to ask them just because they don't want to. And those are the people that are going to fight. It's temporary for them.
Yeah.
Something happened, they lost a job, got sick or whatever, and you help them out for those months and they're right back on their feet. Yeah. And there's other people that are just bounced. I think of, we both, a mutual associate of ours that have bounced from church to church like this. And then burn doors when they leave. Mm-hmm. The minute you don't help them, you're the worst person. You're not even a Christian. Yeah. And you helped them out 2-3 men. In one case, months and months of rent relief. Then they left the church, like 6 months worth of rent relief. Then they left the church. Church paid them their rent for 6 months, and then they left. People ain't kind there. So, and all kind of stuff. So, and all that to say, I think the difference between, they say, giving a helping hand. Mm-hmm. What's that thing? Giving someone a hand up versus a hand out. So I think with taking that to the government, I think there's a difference between the U.S. paying for 5, 10, 15 years for a company, which we've done, and that becomes a handout. And then you hurt people. It's like welfare, right? Yeah. You give someone welfare long enough, they forget that they need to work.
I think that's part of the whole immigration reform, that we need to take it to that different level. It's not just the policies alone. It's how we're going to spend that money. We're going to render aid to other countries, what we're doing. How can we be better effective with this as good stewards of what we're trying to do it? And it may mean rethinking and reforming the whole process. Mm-hmm. But it's not working, so let's do something different.
Going back to missions, let's talk missions. How involved is the church? Or should the church be in some of this? If there is gang violence in Mexico, where is the church's stance to start doing revivals and evangelizing in Mexico? Once you change the person's heart, you change the family. Once you start changing families, you change the economy. Once you start changing that, you change the country. So should the churches be more involved in ministering and not waiting on the government to fix the world's problem, but saying, hey, we're the church, we are the lead, we are the tip of the spear to fix this issue?
I think missions, that's a whole different story. Let me take it this way. We cannot wait for government, especially Washington, D.C. They can't agree on a glass of water. So we cannot allow, and the church was never designed to wait for the government to tell us how to do our business. We can and should be doing more type of stuff with others. So we teamed up with a missionaries division, and they go to Mexico and other places. And so not just my church. I don't know how many churches, 4 or 5 churches got together, and they went into, it come to me in a minute. Anyway, they went there. We took clothes, all types of stuff to help. And people are living in the dumps. I wish I could remember the name of the place. Anyway, but we worked with the local pastors to kind of have revival, people giving life to Christ. Those are the type of things we can do and should do without the help of the government. We don't need the government for that. But what we do need the government for is to fix in the legal immigration process. We can go in and get people saved and meet needs and take clothes and bathing equipment, all of soaps and all that good stuff. We can do that. We don't need the government for that. But what we do need the government for is to fix the legal system. But I think the other thing that, this is going to sound strange. I sit on the board of the United States Catholic Missions Association. I'm a Protestant on the Catholic Missions Association. I am the vice president. Just got elected last February. But one of the things that we are looking at.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's back to all these things. But one of the things we spent 3 days looking at is trying to understand mission today. So the president of the organization, she spent 30 years in Brazil in the Amazons. We don't get that type of commitment as much as we used to. But where we are getting people doing short-term missions, anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 months. So does it mean that we have to revamp or revision mission as we used to see it? And I think that's what we have to do. This organization, one has 800 missionaries. We're down to 5 because many people are dying out and so forth. But we're trying to finally get the young blood interested in mission. So we may have to, we have to go revision mission, where many of them, we think of missionaries, we thought of people going out. The United States used to be a gathering and a launching. People are gathering elsewhere now and sending people to us because they're evangelizing us because we have lost our way according to some of these countries that we used to evangelize. We evangelize them so well, they're looking at us like, hold up, you're not looking like you said you were. Let's send missionaries over to us. So we also need missions, right? But I think missions as we once know it, as we see it in scripture through Paul, has to be revisioned. And the projects will be long-term, but it's going to be filled by multiple people. So we have to have transition points where you can do your 6 months or whatever how long you're going to do and have somebody else to come in. But with asking somebody to spend 30 years in the mission field, I don't think we're going to. Now, will some people do that? Yes, but not as we once saw it. I think people, and there's a whole bunch of reasons, schools, economics, jobs, family, all those play into it. So we have to take the reality of where we are today, which is people are committed to short-term missions, and figure out how to meet those needs and maybe build a platform where if you want missions, come with me. I can teach you. I can provide everything you need for 2 or 3 weeks. Then I have to make sure somebody else comes in. So we need a launching, a gathering platform for young people, and a launching platform, and to help them to transition back. And so it's like this big old revolving door, because I think those days of long-term missions are pretty much over.
Yeah, I know before a couple of years ago and still now, I've been been on my heart to do missions. I was like, Lord, I was looking up mission trips, and they did have like the 6 months to a year and things like that. And I almost did want to do the 6-month mission trip. I had talked to my parents about it. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna cut my hair so I ain't got to worry about it. I was getting ready for it. And I think it was also more so my heart knew what my priority was. I knew what my purpose was on this earth. You know, my parents, they were like, you gonna be gone for this long and I can't talk to you. I'm like, but Mom, like, our purpose is to save souls, and I gotta go do it. You just gonna have to be in your feelings, but I can't, you know. So I think it's the heart of the church. We gotta revision focus our heart on what God has for us to do. Like, we can't be in a building 24/7, or we can't not grow and be stuck in our issues to not go help other people. And I think those long-term mission people are like being deceased because the young people are so caught up in ourselves and our issues that we don't want to go help, you know, or our life is going to be threatened. We may die, and no one's willing to really die for God anymore.
It's a ways of how do we continue to spread the gospel? How do we continue to be the visible and tangible presence of Christ and be effective in what we do? Prayerfully, you know, I hope I'm not sounding that I'm against the short. I'm not against. I think what we have to do is make sure that there's a pipeline. So when you go for 6 months, you're the next person coming in. Because you don't want to start a project and then the project dies because, you know. So right now, we built 2 wells in Africa. Okay, cool. And so we're concerned, you know, this may not seem like much, but when you have to walk miles to go and get water, now you just go walk a couple 100 feet and there's a water well right there. And so we built it now. Both of those wells are built in the name of deceased members of the church. So I just said to someone, I can't wait till we start building these wells in the name of living people. Because I want to do water. It when we go over there, and it's if I build one in my name, I want to be there to launch it and say this is the Trevor Alexander well. Not I want one. I'm just saying I want to get to the place where we do this for the living. It's a great way to remember the dead, but also I want to get to the place. And so we plan to do one a year, but we get these wonderful testimonies of how the well has changed the village, such as where people had to go and collect water and everything else, right? Now you go a couple 100 yards, guess what happens? You got more time on your hands. You can actually start teaching now. So they want teachers in these villages. If you're a pastor, you need people to come along now because now you have more time on your hand.
And a village could be made around that well, and a community and all that.
And so these villages, not maybe 300 or 400 people, but that one water well has transformed that village. And so now they want teachers, educators to come in to help where before was not an issue because people spending time going back and forth or washing clothes and everything. Now I can go down the hall, down the road, be back in 2 minutes. But I got what am I doing with my time? So yeah, so that water well is transforming villages.
That is awesome. We're about to transform into this commercial break, and we'll be right back to hear more from Senior Pastor Dr. Trevor Alexander and connect with True Vine Church. And we're back with Word Today. I am Levi Johnny Griffin, and this is
Portia Griffin.
And we're in it, the thick of it, with Senior Pastor of True Vine, Dr. Trevor Alexander. We were talking about the amazing missions. He's told us about prison ministry. He's dug wells. He's an inductee. He didn't tell us about being inducted. How did you become an inductee?
Well, the local pastors elected me into this.
And what's the name of the organization?
It's the San Antonio Black Book Worship. And Carl Booker and his staff started this, about 9 years ago. And so his goal is to launch out to not just San Antonio, but Austin, Houston, and Dallas. So it become like a Texas thing. And it's to recognize the Black pastors for their accomplishments, for what they do for the body of Christ. And so I started attending these functions, but to be elected by your peers, that's really what it is. When sometimes we do much of what we do, not looking for fame, not looking for fortune. We just do it because Christ has called us to do it. But when your peers recognize you, it's like, wow, somebody has been looking. So that's where that comes out.
That's that fruit.
Yeah.
I always say, if you want to know how good you're doing, look at the fruit
fruit.
you're producing.
And this year, coming up in 2020, we are electing Claudette Anderson Copeland and Father Kevin, Holy Redeemer Catholic Church. He is a Black Clergy Hall of Fame. And he is as white as you can be, but he pastors an all-Black church, Catholic church. But he is at every function. He is visible in the community, and he got elected in there, which is awesome. And the first woman to be elected into the Hall of Fame is Dr. Claudette Anderson Copeland. So 2020 is going to be an amazing time.
Right now.
Yes.
Oh man, that sounds awesome. Now, tell everyone if they want to get in contact with you, they want to be a part of the prison ministry, if they want to get part of the missions, they want to help you dig a well and somebody that's still alive.
Yes.
Name. Tell them how they can get in contact with you. Tell them how they can find your church, how they can email or call the church, connect with you on social media, come to the service. If they want to get all things Dr. T, and that's what we call them back in school.
Yes.
All things Dr. T or all things True Vine. Tell them how to do it.
So we are a True Vine Church. We're located on 1357 Rice Road, which is a corner of Rice and Simlinger. Our website is www.tvmig.org. And we have a Facebook, it's True Vine. You find us there. Coming up this year, which is I'm really excited about. Good Friday, 6:30. We are hosting a concert. Our featured artist is Glow, God's Love Only. She's a gospel rap artist. She is phenomenal. And we're trying to reach the young folks. We normally do the 7 last sayings and all these things. But this year, we wanted to do something a little bit different. We've done it before. She's been with us on a Good Friday. And it's been about 10 years ago. And we want to bring her back. She's not just local. She's international as well. And so if you're not doing anything on Good Friday at 6:30, come to 1357 Rice Road and get a phenomenal, dynamic word through music. And our local praise team will be there. And our children's dance team will be performing. It's going to be great. It's going to be dynamic. We do Easter sunrise service at 7:45 a.m. and 10:30 resurrection service. But 1357 Rice Road, you see us on Facebook. You can reach me through Twitter. I also have Rev Dr. Trevor on Twitter. And I do a lot. I try to tweet once a day. I'm usually positive. I try not to get into the politics of that.
That was me.
I want all positive stuff. I think there's way too much negatives out there. So I'm trying to change the mindset. The other part, we do Twitter, Facebook, whatever social media is out there. You'll find us out there. But otherwise, come on by and we do Sunday school at 9:30 and worship service at 10:30.
All right. Awesome. And now I'm going to kick it to Portia for Portia's portion, her end of the video.
I got a portion now.
I literally just made that up.
You did, because I was like,
I literally made that up. Because she's been talking more of this video than ever. I was like, man, this is awesome. This is good. I get to actually kind of sit back, kind of like she does. I know you have
not been talking. I mean, you get a questions and stuff.
Yeah, but you were engaging. You were in the fight. You were punching. Look,
I've been trying to miss your chips for a long time. If this is a good connection, thank you, God. Okay, so like, share, love, comment, subscribe to YouTube, please. If you're on there, subscribe
all four,
to
y'all.
us. All four
on YouTube. Facebook, 28,000 views. YouTube, one old guy in Vermont going, I love that show.
Well, thank you, one old guy. It says but one, all right?
One night at a time, right?
Yeah. Send comments and questions. We love it. If you have topics that you want us to talk about, let us know. If you are a pastor that would love to be senior pastor, that would love to be on here, please reach out to us through Facebook. If you know that senior pastor, or if your senior pastor would be awesome on here, please let us know. We're always looking to book people. We're trying to keep this going as long as we can by the glory of God. We have the text messaging 33 stronger to 33222. You can get a daily text message and
something encouraging.
Yes. And is that everything?
I think so.
And then
go ahead.
I keep shouting out my YouTube channel. It's coming. That's all I'm gonna say.
There you go.
All right.
It's coming. Speaking it into existence.
Yes.
Call those things that matter.
Yes. Come on now.
Dr. T,
Mm.
10 seconds. Encourage somebody before we drop out.
I want to say to you that, for those that are listening, that as an old pastor just said to me, I mean, students call them senior pastor said to me, that we have difficult days ahead of us. But as Black people, we've been here before. As a nation, we've been here before. We will make it. The gates of hell will not prevail against us. The church will stand.
Mhm.
Word today. See you next time.
Amen.